Might be a little
Here
too
we
early to
are,
start.
Dome Theory. Bright and
Yes,
early, we are here on December 31st.
the
Thank you
last
to
day.
um, Law Murray, who was with us yesterday talking Clippers and Celtics. We're going to do some music now, as we often do here on Dome Theory, and as we often do as well, welcome in some friends. Nate Spurlin is here, OldMlk,
Hello,
Nate
everybody.
Dogg to me.
Yes.
Welcome in from the Cap podcast, who covers music every week with his
Yep.
buddy RJ.
Yep.
And Anthony Obas, who this week is running a victory lap as news of Megan Thee Stallion and Carl Crawford's legal situation circling. You should have read the book, Shifting Music in Your Career, Volume 1. Welcome, Obas.
What's up? What's popping?
Nothing much. We're going to talk some music. We're going to look back at the best music of the year. I guess we can look back at some bad music, too, if you want, if we got time.
I don't remember bad music.
I remember
You
one.
just brush it
I
off.
remember. Yeah, I remember one song because it's Bobby's favorite song. But aside from that, I don't remember bad music.
I have a lot of favorite songs.
If I remember bad music, it's Bobby's fault. That's what everyone should take away from this.
We're going to get into it. There's some songs I love this year. There was a lot of good music. I'd say this was probably one of the better years of the last couple of years here. There was a couple of things that really grew on me, too, as time went on.
Yeah.
We talked Kanye. We talked Drake, I think, last time we were here. Drake, that project kind of faded fast. I mean, so much of the content of that album was the goofy feud with Drake that's with Kanye that's over now. That they squashed with the benefit concert there in LA. So you listen back to that now, and the diss bars and everything else didn't even take a year for a lot of that to expire. Now Kanye, by contrast, kind of kept it personal on Donda. Fixed the track list within the last month or two here, I thought.
Did he?
Yeah, I like the sequence embedded. They brought back a lot of the original songs that I liked. And I'm going to start with Life of the Party, which I thought was probably one of the 10 best tracks of the year. Andre 3000 coming out of the woodwork with a great verse, kind of staying true to the concept of the album, talking about their mothers and things like that wasn't there to begin with before that track got re-added, and couple of the other things got thrown back in there, talking about family and things like that. This version of Donda that we heard more recently, and I don't know how many times it's changed at this point, it sounded a lot better to me. And, that project grew on me. There was a lot of tracks on there that individually stood out. Now that it's all sequenced better, I feel a lot better about it.
Here's what I'd say about Donda. I still think it's incredibly too long. I tried to go back and listen to it after I saw the resequencing, and to be honest, I think it's just I don't think there's listening to it after the second sequencing. I don't think there's anything that can be done to make it seem like a cohesive project in the same way that others have, like a Tyler the Creator's project or even a J. Cole's project that was cohesive as well. I think that it was just a bunch of songs that were put together, and I think Kanye tried to do his best in terms of sequencing, but another thing with that too is that he added like 5 new songs with the second resequencing. So to be honest, I think that because other artists have done that in the past, whether it's Gunna or the Baby, where they have deluxe songs and then they shuffle all the tracks up so that everybody has to listen to the full album again, and it's like kind of a money grab, if that makes any sense. I think that just put the deluxe songs at the beginning of the end, because that's why I'm listening to this album again. I already took my songs and decided that I didn't like the rest. I don't need to listen to them again.
It's hard to listen to that album in full. I don't think I'm ever going to do it again. I do it just to see how it sounds when they shake it up like that. Obas, what's going on over there?
What's going on? I don't know. What's going on here?
Are you typing?
I wasn't typing. I'm not even typing at all.
Not many words coming out of our co-host here. How do you feel about Donda looking back on it? We had a little more time for it to breathe since we last talked about it.
I think Donda, first listen, I mean, it was for the first, an hour, 52 minutes. Like, you can listen to it full length project. I mean, I mean, there wasn't a lot of playback value, I thought, on the first first track. I think the track listing on the deluxe was way better. Just because there were just certain songs that, on the first project that was all the way down. I mean, like, that was all the way down the track list and that could have been brought up, right? So I think the deluxe was a lot better than the first one. But honestly, I mean, this Donda seemed very out of date to me personally. A lot of sounds that were very repetitive from, late registration all the way to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
I think a lot of people like that though.
I mean, I like it. I like it, but how long do you get to an age where, not to make the shift here, but you look at Nas's sound, and Nas could have easily went back to the Illmatic type of sound, but he just dropped the project Magic, or
Nas would not have a fan out of me if he went back to the old sound.
Exactly, like I mean, like
the modern beats with Hit Boy is what has made me a fan of Nas.
That's made it, and think about it, like he said it, like it's like, yo, as you get older, you can't go back to what already worked, like you have to. That's why I don't respect Drake's albums. Like you can't keep using the same sound.
That's what Certified Lover Boy was. That's exactly what Certified Lover Boy was, and it was executed terribly. Terribly.
Exactly. The only reason why Drake gets a pass is because usually his marketing scheme is just genius, But the sound is just different. So for me, it's just like, Ye's Donda wasn't the project that really made the difference for me this year. That stood out. I mean, you look at Tyler the Creator, you look at Vince Staples, you look at The House is Burning. You look at
did you tell me more about The House is Burning? Because to be honest, I thought that thinking about how it was 5 years between The House is Burning and the last project, I didn't think that project was worth 5 years, waiting for 5 years.
It wasn't worth
at all.
It wasn't, not at all. Well, I think that if that project came out in 2018, it would have had a bigger impact, or 2019. I mean, it was still a solid project. Like you had 9 to 5, you had Playmore, you had a couple bangers off of that. But when you have, yeah, exactly, right.
It kind of seemed like he was confused with what he wanted to do. Isaiah Rashad on that.
I think he was confused, or also it was just like, it was your time. I guess like this was a big year for TDE a little bit, not big, but they needed to make
important.
Right, it was more important for them. So that project wasn't like, the project was good for the first month or two, but then after that I didn't really kind of go back at it again. So that's just my thing.
It was a good album. It wasn't profound or anything like that, but it was good. It was some good tracks here. I'd put it behind Donda for sure, just in terms of the impact as a collective project. But what you said, I love that track. That was one of my favorite songs this year. Headshots, the lead single. I'm not the biggest fan of him, and I wasn't excited for this project, but I keep going back to it. And
I mean,
it's
honestly,
gonna have some staying power for individual tracks.
Some people have it in their top 5, and I'm like, huh? Like that's nowhere near a top 5 album this year with all the good music that's come out this year. Like I understand that if you have like a niche in Isaiah Rashad and you like those types of artists, and you don't really branch out into the other subgenres of hip hop, then I guess maybe I could see it being a top 5. But like, if you're looking at the overall landscape of hip hop, it's probably not even top 10. And I don't even think there's a you can make an argument that it's better than 10 albums.
Obas is rotating there.
That is better.
The Sun's Tirade is probably better, and I don't care about the weight. It's not a thing that usually matters to me. Going like 4 or 5 years with a project, I'd rather wait and hear something good. And I think it usually pays off taking your time. I don't know. That's just something Vasquez in our group chat has talked about that a ton. I know you talk about it. Obas does a little bit. I don't get caught up in wait time. I mean, how long have we been waiting on Kendrick now? That's not going to impact how hard his project hits whenever
it's two different things, though, because Kendrick has proved you have to reach a certain level in music for wait time not to matter. So like, when I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that when Kendrick releases his next project, it's going to hit. And the reason why is because when you look at the Good Kid, Mad City, and then from Good Kid, Mad City to Pimp a Butterfly, that took 3 years, and To Pimp a Butterfly was impactful on its own. And then between that and Damn, it was also 2 years, at least 2 or 3 years, and Damn was still impactful on its own. So when you see that, and also looking at other artists like Rihanna, who always delivers, Beyonce, who always delivers, even a J. Cole to a lesser extent, branching
Ooh.
out of that, Lil Uzi, Travis Scott is going through legal issues right now, but still, like, Travis Scott is someone who always delivered. Like, there's certain artists that are just in that echelon of, I can release music whenever I want because it's going to be good. And Isaiah Rashad never established himself in that area at all. So that's why wait time matters for an artist like him.
J. Cole, you mentioned, better album than Isaiah Rashad's, I'd say.
It's nowhere close, and I don't even like it that much.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't like Cole's project?
It was good, but for what J. Cole was supposed to be, it's still not up to par.
No, but it's an improvement on what he did last time. I think it got back to the basics for him, just conceptually. And you had a number of tracks that I can go back to here. I mean, My Life is Grammy nominated, deservedly so, I think. It's not not the first track between those two that we heard a couple of years ago, but it's a good one. And it's just top to bottom, good rap here. I think it showcases his talent, his core abilities good, and he's not trying to do too much.
The one thing,
back to the basics there.
The one I guess bottle of praise I'll give that album is Hunger on Hillside. The outro track is a top 5 track this year. That's what I'll say.
All right, there you go. I didn't hear that coming from Isaiah Rashad's album.
No, because there isn't a top 5 track. There is even a consideration for it. I haven't even gone back to listen to it again after the first time.
I went back to this one because of the Nardwuar interview, which was one of the better interviews I've seen this year. That was really fun, just the chemistry between them. Is this one you go back to, Obas? The off season?
Ooh. Oh, am I on? Yeah. No, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't go to that project. Yeah, I don't go to J. Cole's project. I mean, J. Cole has this weird formula of just creating the project and not creating. I think sometimes he went back more with the features, but his project doesn't have a lot of playback value, and it's only for his fans. Like he has a tight niche, and they will go so hard for that. And not to say like the concept wasn't dope and the content wasn't dope, but I mean, like, you don't get people outside of Cole fans praising Cole projects, right? And even though his project was cool, like, it was dope and lyric, but I just can't praise it. Like, like, I'm not a big Tyler the Creator fan, but his project, you have to respect it, just off of the sound, just as off of the concept, just off of the flow of the change of beats, the flow, the delivery, the marketing. Sometimes I just think, like, the only thing I liked about Cole's project was just the documentary, which was so relative to everything that was going on. Like, I don't even like Maxo, but I thought Maxo's project is definitely
Maxo's project was good.
That
was a good project. That was a very good project.
I like this one from last year more, but he's consistent. He is always going to bring some good storytelling. You actually sent me at the beginning of the month, if I'm trying to sort through those tracks there, one of the better ones on the project for me looking back on it. I'm trying to pull up which one exactly it was, but you probably remember it off top, Nate. There was a number of good ones in there. I like the one with Tyler. Big
Persona, Local Joker, They Say.
They Say was awesome. I love the beat shift on there. Just the concept of it, what people are talking about.
He has one produced by Hit Boy too. I think it was a third one. I think it was it wasn't Local Joker. Let me find it. It was a third single that came out.
He always has a great storytelling track.
Trips is the top 5 song as well of the year because of the storytelling on it.
He's the storytelling on it,
and also like the storytelling on it, and also when you pay attention to the beat and how it progresses throughout the story, perfection doesn't exist in life, but if it did, it would be Trips from a lyrical standpoint.
He's a perfectionist as a rapper. I mean, he's got the flow, he's got the voice, he's got the storytelling. He's consistent year in and year out. He's dropping a good project. Roaches was the first track I ever heard by him on Abstract Radio, Obas, when I discovered Maxo for the first time. And he's stayed at that level since. Normally, as an artist, you only have 1-2 storytelling tracks like that, and he has brought it album in, album out at this point with the storytelling.
Yeah, no, I mean his last project, Brandon Banks, has one of the best intros that I heard of that year. I believe it's called "Meet Again," where he's essentially rapping a song as if he was talking to one of his homies in jail and catching him up on like what's going on in the neighborhood and what's going on in his life and other people's life and stuff like that. Like that's a really really good track. He just has he knows what to do in terms of concept, and his execution of it is always brilliant. And that is something that you can't say for many rappers at all. I think that he's definitely probably the most underrated rapper of this year.
Houston's finest. Obas, did you enjoy the Nas album that we heard, Magic, within the last week or two here?
I love it. That project was sick. It's flawless, from top to bottom. I mean, 4016 is building. I was just on 40th Ave on I was just in LIC. Yeah, I was just on 40th Ave on Wednesday, and I went to stop by 4016, the building. I mean, Nas just has a great way of storytelling, but I mean his storytelling can get boring. Like I know Nate would be the first person if he went back to Nostradamus and be like, dude, your project is just bad. Like this is terrible, and it's just like he's brought out a fun way to like do music. And I think that's one of the things I liked about this year. It's like a lot of the 37 plus rappers are now bringing out the fun and now kind of using some of the young sound to kind of help them.
Oh, the production's awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it definitely lifts them up. Yeah, I know Nate's a Hit Boy fan, and kind of just a banner year for him in that regard. Capping it off with one of the best produced albums this year. And that's what I'll give this one. Nas, to me, though, just as a performer on some of these projects lately, and I haven't dove in deep into the last two full-length projects of his own there. I haven't loved his own performance, and that's interesting to me because this is a guy who invented flow in many ways, like popularized just rapping as a whole, like all the techniques that artists after him followed and things like that. And to me, I don't know whether it's slowed down or just gotten a bit stale, or I don't know what it is, but as a performer, he doesn't captivate me the same way he did in his early albums. And that's just how I feel about it. I especially feel that way about his one with Kanye. I didn't feel like his performance was all that strong. The bars, the rhymes, just the whole technique. Lyrically, like I wasn't feeling it from him on that one, and it was better here. But still, like I know you don't want to go back to the old Nas, Nate, but that was when performance-wise he was at his best to me. There was the energy, the storytelling, like everything he needed back then was at its highest. And now, and it just happens when you're 20 years in the game or whatever it is for me.
I'd encourage you to listen to King's Disease and King's Disease 2. And because King's Disease is, as much as I didn't like the Grammy nominations of last year, King's Disease deserved the Grammy, and I'm glad that it got it. King's Disease 2 is also something that deserves a Grammy this year as well, and it's nominated again. I haven't heard Magic yet, so I can't really speak on that, but just based off of King's Disease and King's Disease 2, Nas has definitely made a fan out of me because just the knowing who you are, but also experimenting within that is something that he's doing there, and I appreciate that. It's better than getting the same song recycled 20 times like some other older artists do. And Nas
that's impressive. For a guy like him to be able to stand with some of the modern artists, and listen, I know you love the modern styles as much as anyone, and for you to be able to praise them on that level with all the young artists today who are hungry, who are out there doing innovative things, that's impressive. Because listen, we've even talked about J. Cole getting stale, like, and he's 10 years in the game at this point, or whatever it is. For a guy as instrumental to the early and golden era of hip hop like him to be making Grammy nominated albums, that's really impressive. So I'll give it to him, even if I don't personally enjoy the projects that much. Is there anything you want to throw out there in terms of projects, songs this year, Obas, singles?
A couple projects. I had to say there's a lot of, so just giving big shout outs to Lil Sims from the UK about sometimes being introverted. Definitely wanted to throw that out there. A good funky, boom bap rap from the UK. Like the UK scene's been killing it especially with Dave. We're all together. Gets Conflict of Interest. Wanted to throw that out there. In terms of projects, Boldy James, Bo Jackson is definitely one of my favorites this year. I mean, there's just been a good range of music this year. I think one category that wasn't the best is definitely the pop scene. Hip hop kind of started off a little slow this year. Like Nate was saying earlier, one project that I just despised completely this year was Culture 3.
Really? I
You
like
know,
Culture 3. I think it was better than what people thought it was. I think it's better than Culture 2.
I think it's better than Culture 2, but it's like they can't never capture what they captured in Culture 1.
Yeah.
You know what I
I mean,
mean?
yeah, if you're expecting Culture 1, then I could see that for sure. But like if you're just expecting good hip hop, I think that it's still a good album. I think when you look at tracks like Why Not, when you look at tracks like Jane, when you look at Antisocial with the Juice World feature on there, I think they have a song with a Pop Smoke feature on there that I like as well. I think that they at least established themselves as artists who may be past their prime but are still very good.
Yes, I agree with that one. I
I
agree
think
with
that's
that
the
one.
perfect way to describe it. Yeah. You got to do something new, though. Like, I don't like stringing out a series unless. Listen, Culture was iconic, but it's not like the Marshall Mathers LP or like some of these other series that, like, really you hear the title of that album and there's like a staying power to it. I didn't even realize Culture 3 came out this year. I remember Culture 2. Culture 1 was
Culture 2
an
is here's what I'll
iconic
say
release.
about here's what I'll say. I think that if they spent more time on Culture 2 instead of focusing on making it a victory lap, then we'd be looking at the series completely differently. Because
Right.
Culture 2 was a mess. It was a mess. It had hits, but at the same time it didn't feel as genuine as Culture 1. And because of that, also it's like 23 tracks. Out of those 23 tracks, it's only like 4 that are actually really worth listening to again. Like it's just a terrible ratio. But on Culture 3, it's a better ratio for sure. And I think that if they because I remember QC was talking about flooding the market, and that was when Lil Baby was dropping 3 times a year. And you also have who else was on QC? They were like Lil Yachty dropping, and then they had all the
Oh,
collab
Lord.
projects and stuff like that. Like they were dropping a seemingly like one project like, from the label QC. They were dropping like every month, and it's like
I'm
that's
surprised
too
Yachty's
much.
still rolling at the level he is. I was never a big fan of him.
I mean, he's kind of fallen off for the most part. I think that he's good for a feature here and there though. I like him better when he's
He was
melodic
on the
though.
Kanye album, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Might have been.
I think
Might
he
have
I'm
been.
was.
not. I wouldn't be surprised if he was. But like, I like him better when he's melodic. If he's rapping, then I can't. It's unlistenable to me. I can't listen to him rap.
Let's stay for a second on the Bo Jackson album. That was probably right around the back end of my top 5 this year. The Alchemist create a real nice low-key layer for Boldy James to work on here that worked well. Good features. Stove God with a nice hook. And Nate, if you're gonna give him anything, give him a hook. Give him a hook. He is good for a hook. I don't know. I actually like his verses more than his hooks, but when I hear people talk about him, they generally
People talk
appreciate the
about him.
choruses he brings. Yes, tons of people talk about
Where are
him.
you going? Where are you going?
But
The only person
anyway,
I've ever heard talk about him is you. I
that is
promise
so
you.
wrong.
I promise you it's a fact. I promise you it's a fact. And
I'm not gonna
Obas
get
only
caught up
talks about
on
him
him.
when you're like when you're like, hey, Obas, listen to him too. And Obas is like, yeah, I guess. Like
Well, listen, we're gonna have a couple of different projects where your peers here that we're gonna talk about, so it's gonna be a constant. So I don't want to get caught up on him too much here. But a good appearance by Benny the Butcher, who had a big year in his own right. One of my favorite performances by an artist in concert this year was seeing him at the Griselda set. I know Obas is a huge fan of him as well. Freddie appears here with a good track, but Earl Sweatshirt, Rock Marciano, and Boldy on Photographic Memories with a
that was a
nice
good song.
soul cut.
That was a good song.
Nice looping soul beat. One of my favorite produced tracks of this year. That's what sticks out to me most from this one.
So
But front to back, just good songs here.
what is your top 5?
You're putting me on the spot. You know, I probably have like 10.
All right, so what's your top 10? I got time. We got like what, like
From
15,
this
20
year? All
minutes
right,
left?
let's go in no order. Boldy James is obviously on there. Gumbo, Pink Sifu, another Lambo managed artist. Freddie Gibbs, manager there, who I discovered at the Rock Marciano when Stove God show that Obas went and I went to. around the summertime there. Silk Sonic's project did get in there. I wasn't blown away by it. Like a collaboration on that level should have, but it was good music and I enjoyed it. Maxo's on there. I'll squeeze Kanye in. Both of Mac Homie's projects made it in for me. Balance Cho and Pray for Haiti. I liked K Tronada's EP. It was really short, but it was good. I liked Hitler Wears Hermes 8. Aside, of course, both of them. I guess you can count those as 2. Drake's did not make it. I like Duckworth's EP for R&B. Alchemist had a good EP as well this year with Earl Sweatshirt there. What else is going to squeeze in as far as albums go this year? I think I'll squeeze J. Cole in on the back end of the top 10. I enjoyed it. And what else are we going with here? Benny's is right there. Conway's is there.
I think Conway's is probably better than Benny's.
And that's probably 10 right there. Yeah, Benny's production-wise wasn't there.
Benny's was... I didn't need that at all. Especially after... Like, I think that I could have rocked out with Burden of Proof all year. Like, I don't think I needed an album from Benny the Butcher there.
I mean, the Harry Fraud production wasn't bad.
Obas is gonna step to his defense. I don't know a bigger Benny fan than Obas.
I'm not a big. I'm more of a Conway person. I'll be honest with you. So don't let that confuse you. But I mean, you could have been like he could have been perfectly fine with Burden of Proof. Honestly, it captured the
also
sound,
produced
whatever.
by Hit Boy, isn't it?
Oh yeah, also produced by Hit
Man,
Boy.
Let Hit Boy rock, man. Because like Harry Fraud is not the best producer, and he gets a lot of placements, and it's average.
He's not the best producer, but in terms of the scene that he is in, like he produced Jim Jones's album, and no one really listens to Jim Jones like that. You know what I mean? But it's just like that's his market. You know what I mean? So it makes sense for him to produce a whole project for him. Now I do it. When you have Tony, Tony's Story, right, which is straight mafia shit, right? Like that's the wrestling he does. But for Benny the Butcher to be signed to Rockefeller, to be signed to that, he can't be going back to producing projects like Harry Fraud. Like that's just bad on his image. He has to continue the success he did off of Burden of Proof to kind of do that. So I'm leaning to it's not to say, Nate, you're wrong about it. Like you're wrong, and I'm staying on my defense. It's just saying that on the level that Benny is, you can't go back to this underground stuff that kind of raised you a little bit. Mm-hmm. You have to pivot and continue to kind of now leap towards that sound, right? The Hit Boy type of thing. Like I would have loved to Dr. Dre on a beat. You know what I mean? Like they got to go further than going to Harry Fraud. You know what I mean?
I actually disagree with that one. I think these guys staying true to their sensibilities is what makes it really cool. Underground hip hop being visible on a mainstream level, the way they've done that, I think is so unlikely and so unique right now that I'd like to hear them stick to that. I don't want to hear a glossy, expensive and star power produced album by these types. I like hearing.
That's what I want. Because if you have the talent to perform on that type of level, and Benny the Butcher definitely has the talent to perform on that level, then that's what he needs to do.
So you want to hear like a Pray for Paris type release from Benny?
I want more Benny. I want more Burden of Proofs.
All right.
Yeah, even if he links with Alchemist, like that'd be a fine production pairing.
It'd be a fine. Yeah, it'd be a fine mix with him. So,
Static Selecta would be a fine pairing as well.
Yeah, Benny's didn't blow me away. Out of the 3 Griselda releases this year, his was definitely the worst. Kanye's was excellent.
It was.
I'm gonna stay for a minute on the Westside one. 2 sides. The second side was better, which is interesting. Not great sequencing there because you're obviously gonna hit harder with the first side. I think at the point the second side's got more streams or whatever you want to go off there. Definitely more critical acclaim. I get it. I try to show people and put people on them all the time. Obas did it to me way back when. It took me a while to get in the Westside Gunn, just with the voice, the delivery, the content, and everything else. Like it takes some getting used to. But the beats, man, his beat selection is as good as anybody's out there. He just completely rolled out the red carpet for so many amazing features here. Obviously, I'm a big Stove God fan. Where That Happens. Lil Wayne on the first side of this had one of the best tracks and feature appearances of the year, which is incredible that he keeps pulling this off. You just top to bottom here have some amazing songs, like 30 deep of just excellent beats, good material. Right Now with Stove God and Jadakiss was one of the probably 10, 15 best tracks I've heard this year. Most of the best beats, like Vogue Cover, side B had more, I'd say, in terms of The Fly Who Couldn't Fly Straight with Tyler, Ostertag with Stove God. The production on these releases right here just blows me away. And I don't think in terms of rap there was an album that I went back to more this year than Itler Wears Hermes 8 by Westside Gunn. I don't know how you felt about it, Nate.
I haven't heard it. I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard it.
All right, let me lean on Obas for this one.
Yeah.
I'll be real with you. I mean, with Westside, this is the same. He did the same approach that Russ did on Chomp 2. Is you get a good selection of beats, and then like that's what Westside is good. Like his lyrics, I cannot stand him for it. He is the worst out of the three in terms of lyrics. He's the worst in terms of. Like,
he's gimmicky, but it's so great.
I can't stand it. He's gimmicky.
All I'll say
is really his beat selection, the features. I mean.
His feature on Kanye's album was good. That's what I'll say. I enjoyed that a lot, to the point where I was like, where are there more Westside verses like this? And if they were, I'd listen to them. But aside from that, I'm cool off Westside Gunn.
I thought Conway's was actually the best on there, but they were both good. It was a good victory lap for Griselda as a whole there. But go ahead, Obas.
Yeah, but what was I saying? But it's just like, I think, like, to be honest with you, the part 2 was all Stove God project. Like, he shitted on that. Like, Stove God really, like, and that's what I think about Westside. Westside figured out a way to really perpetuate more of that underground rap, right? Again, we know that Griselda is the pioneer of it, right? But if you can get, like, the Mac Hominy on it, or, like, to get, like, the Stove God Cooks on it, to kind of perpetuate that, to kind of keep it moving, I mean, you putting yourself in a position. I think this time around, Westside Gunn played more of I'm gonna play the executive role and get the people that I need to get on board to kind of push the project, right? To get someone like Lil Wayne, who's been shitting on features, throughout the whole year. I mean, like, he's been on a roll, to have him on a project. So I said, like, yeah, Westside Gunn, like I said, back to just supporting what it was. Like, he's good with the beat selection, but damn, bro, give me some lyrics, give me some bars, bro. Like, like, fuck.
No, I feel you for sure. My top 10, if we're ready to move on, is Tyler the Creator, Call Me If You Get Lost, Polo G.
Can we stay there for a minute?
All right, it's your show. Let's go.
That album is so good. And listen, I didn't want to stack my playlist with songs from this one, and we already did a whole podcast with it. Jason Buford, who's just outstanding, with Passion of the Weiss, Rolling Stones, everywhere he's writing right now. We could do an hour on this thing, like just the concept, the production, the features, the songwriting, the rapping. It's so good. Hot Wind Blows. Is there a better rap song this year than that one? What's Your Name? Like a pop rap hit that's cool, unique.
Sweet.
Lemonhead with a unique low key feature in 42 Doug, and I went back and listened to a lot of 42 Doug's work this year. He's one of my favorite new rappers.
Me and Obas were in the car listening to 42 Doug on blast. It was a beautiful time.
It was a good time.
He went to Walmart in New Jersey.
The DJ Drama appearances throughout. Great ode to him.
DJ Drama is better at yelling on people's songs than DJ Khaled. That's all I want to say with that. And it's not close. Drama, at least Drama is painting a picture. He's like, we're on a boat. Someone just gave me vanilla ice cream. Like, that's a picture versus you just saying, we the best music, DJ Khaled. Like, that's like, you say the same thing all the time. At least Drama is like trying to paint a picture and add to the song. Like, I didn't mind the DJ Drama cameos on it as much as some people did when it first came out. I thought it was beautiful.
So there aren't many perfect albums. This comes pretty close. I think every song on here is good. The production's seamless and flows well. The features are all
Tyler
excellent.
Produced the whole thing too.
Just conceptually a victory lap. After a near perfect album in Igor, the levels he's reached at this point in his career. And listen, I wasn't even a fan before Flower Boy. He's put himself up there with some of the legends. Like we're not talking.
I always knew he had talent. Like even going back to Wolf and all those more brash albums, like in my head it was always he has talent, but like the shit that he's rapping about is just
You hear the
wild. I
seeds
can't
he
really
was
get
playing
into it.
back then too.
Yeah, but like now that he's kind of, I guess, for a lack of a better word, matured with his content, now it's just a joy to listen to him because you always knew he had the talent, but it was just the content. I just cannot get into the content. And now I can actually relate to some of the content. So Tyler has definitely become one of my favorite artists over the past 2-3 years by far.
Obas, you manage artists, you're bringing up and coming guys. There's a model here that's hard to follow. Like I don't even know how he does the level of work that he does between the clothes and the production. And
he has a fragrance line now
and features and everything else that he does. Everything's designed by him personally. It feels like top to bottom, just in terms of his brand. And this is what it almost feels like you're trying to curate with guys. Obas is just every level, from release to what you're wearing to how your album looks to music videos and everything in between. Like he's got it all down and it's all him. Like everything's curated and managed by him and it all reflects who he wants to be, and it comes off sensationally. Everything feels fresh. Everything feels new year in and year out from him, and he always finds ways to level up on himself creatively.
Right, and I think when we think about the projects this year, I think, we talk about King's Disease. We talk about, when we talk about anything close, I think King's Disease was another project in terms of cohesiveness was up. Why these two projects are top 5 in everybody's list is because there's this maturity level that a lot of these artists have reached, which was they had a period where their album was good, right? So I'll be honest with you, I love Cherry Bomb, but I hated Wolf. You know what I mean? Wolf was just too
Tyler
much.
doesn't like Cherry Bomb,
right? He doesn't like, but I like Cherry Bomb. You know what I mean? But there's this sense of like you have to have your worst project in order to build up to your best project. You know what I mean? Like Call Me If You Get Lost is just a success off of the ego or the Flower Boy. But if he didn't have a downfall with Cherry Bomb, how could he use some of that experiments to Call Me If You Get Lost? Like people ended up going back to the Cherry Bomb and the Wolf because they seen experimentations of it, right? You look at King's Disease and King's Disease 1 and 2, it reminds me of, oh my God, that Life is Good, the Life is Good project from Nas, right? Because it cohesively brought the jazz and soul, but that aspect of him just talking to you type of rap in a calm way, right? You had Amy Winehouse, for God's sake, on that project, right? So when we look at, development and growth and maturity, I mean, and best albums, like those two albums are the best because we've seen artists use on old projects, samples of it to kind of bring back to the new, which was fresh and rejuvenating for me.
Yeah. Some other projects on my list for sure. Polo G's Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame Deluxe that came out like a month ago, Hall of Fame 2.0. Polo G, when he's melodic, is so much better than when he raps. It's beautiful. Rod Wave Soulfly, again, another project with a deluxe that really sold me on it. Obviously, King's Disease too by Nas. Code of the Friend and Static Selectors Tequila Sunrise is probably should be top 5 in everybody's list because it's so good. The production by Static Selector is brilliant. The content that Coda raps about is brilliant. He does not waste bars at all. He does not waste lines. Everything rhymes together, and it's beautiful to watch for there.
And I will say, Nate, to you, that project was one of the dopest projects. The only thing that killed him, Coda, was the allegations.
But at the same time, he did come out with a song addressing it, and from that perspective, it kind of seemed like the allegations kind of went away. So, like based on what he was describing in the song, if what he's describing in the song is true, then it's like, okay, well, these allegations were just by a bit. How he's basically framing it is that the person who had these allegations was bitter that he moved on like without them. And like that's something that does happen as well. Not as often as obviously like weird dudes doing weird stuff, like that happens far more often, but it's still something to acknowledge that the other thing in reverse does happen as well. So if that's just the end of the story, then I'm willing to give Coda the pass for that, because if he's telling the truth, then there's no need to address it anymore. But also obviously Maxo Kream's Weight of the World, obviously. Young Thug's Punk went under the radar because some people didn't like the experimentation of it, but the idea of making, first of all, I think that the album should have been called folk instead of punk, because when you think punk, you think a certain type of rock, and it's nowhere near that type of rock.
No,
but it's still
it's
rock
not.
music, kind of. It's so that's why I think it felt more like folk music to me, like a folk trap album, and it was executed beautifully. I love that album. It's definitely a lock for my top 5 as well. Also another album that serves as experimentation is Trippie Redd's Neon Shark versus Pegasus. It's a deluxe from an album he dropped last year, and it's a full-on rock album. He teamed up with Travis Barker on it. He has some verses from Machine Gun Kelly on it, and it's just straight up rock. There's not an 808 in sight. It's just him.
I can usually appreciate what he's doing, but I don't love his voice.
I like his voice. It's very. I like, if you have a distinct voice, then I probably fuck with you.
You didn't mention Baby Keem, who we should probably talk a little bit about.
I was actually talking to Obas about this like a month or two ago. I think that this album was for Baby Keem to show the world that he has talent, and that's so clear. Yes. It is so clear anyone who thinks that Baby Keem does not have talent does not understand art at all. He has talent. Right. But
here's
the cohesiveness of that project was just so terrible. Some of the sequencing on it was it wasn't the best. It wasn't as polished as you'd like for it to be. I think that, for example, a song like Scars and a song like Lost Souls has no business being on the same track, on the same album together. Family Ties and 16 are two completely different types of tracks that have no business being on the same album together. So I think that for Baby Keem, the thing that hurt him was cohesiveness. But that being said, all the songs that I just named, I love. So it's just literally a lack of cohesiveness thing for me when it comes to Baby Keem's The Melodic Blue.
He's a star in the making, not just because of the Kendrick cosign, which is obviously about as big as you can get. I actually thought there was going to be more Kendrick on here, which would have been exciting, but I understand both artists' desire to not have that overshadow the whole thing here. Preview it with 2 singles there, and we can kick back like more between Range Brothers and Family Ties. There's no doubt Family Ties is the better song, but there's a lot of endearing features to Range Brothers. You talk about sequencing. Song structure to me is really interesting here. Even on the opener, Trademark USA, you have like 2, sometimes 3 sections to these tracks. Beat switches, flow switches, sort of Kendrick-esque in what he's trying to do with a lot of that, but sometimes it extended out for like 7-8 minutes, and you just kept rolling and rolling. And he had the flow and the energy to keep you locked in for those. But I always think that's a massive risk, making songs that long. Creating as many like diversions within tracks as he did here. A lot of it made it really experimental and I think, I don't want to say innovative, but at least
it was innovative. It was innovative for sure. I think that once again, it's just a sequencing thing. I think that there's some really, really good tracks on there. I think that on Family Ties, Kendrick has the best verse of the year. I don't think it's close. I don't think it's close. Anyone who thinks that someone else has a better verse than Kendrick on Family Ties is dumb. Like that's just
Linda was here to talk about the brother.
Like he had me saying brother for like 2 weeks after that.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that impacts saying, listen, top of the morning. When people first heard that leak on Twitter, they're like, oh no, is this about to be like the first bad Kendrick song ever? But then you hear it within the context of the song and the album, and it's like, all right, this is like Kendrick's meme. If there ever is going to be one, like this is his chance to do that. Me and Obas missed it when he brought Baby Keem out at Day in Vegas, which was brutal. We saw a lot of good stuff there, but I want to see Kendrick in front of a crowd of thousands going top of the morning with everybody yelling it back. That would be something I want to see this year.
That'd be hilarious. That'd definitely be hilarious for sure.
Obas, what's capable of this album? Because I think we all agree that this is a good sign of like what he's capable of, but not really like a fruition of him making a great album. Just a good one, I think.
I think we've seen the diversity of him. We've seen the beat switch. We've seen the flow change. I mean, a lot of the flow change has to come from Kendrick. We've seen that. I think where he needs to pivot off now, can he start, like, we've seen the techniques. Like, I think, what was the song called? It was the second track. I thought it was a Travis Scott one. Oh my God.
Do-Rag Activity.
No, it's not that one. It's like
Pink
it had the
Panties is the
same
other one that
Pink
has
Panties.
there's like a beat switch 5 seconds into that track where it kind of goes from like a flashing light style beat, like a real ethereal thing, to like boom, 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 boom,
Boom, boom,
boom.
boom, boom. Yes, that song. There you go. There you go. So I was like, I was even listening. I was just like, yo, this very sounds like a Travis Scott sound. So I'm very
There's a
curious
lot
to
of Travis
see.
to this album, yeah.
Right. So now I'm very curious to see is what the next project, right? On top of the cohesiveness, on top of like, okay, we know that you have all these flow switches that you can go in. What does a Baby Keem sound look like? You get what I'm saying? Like, what does that sound like from track 1 to track 10 and then a whole cohesive project? What does that sound like? I didn't get that a lot from him. I can do a lot of things here. That's what I was showing you, which I, again, kudos for you because it came out perfectly well. But now it's time to hone in from the success here. It's like, what is the one thing that you can do well that beats a lot of other people's projects? And that's what Baby Keem is going to face.
The thing that makes me not worry about that is the fact that Baby Keem produces his beats.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So in understanding that, it could be Baby Keem might. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the best hip hop artist in the world at some point, because he produces, he raps perfectly fine. He's willing to take risks and experiment. That's what all we got from the Melodic Blue. I don't think there's a ceiling for him, to be honest with you. I think that especially with Kendrick getting ready to drop his last album on TDE and then bounce out and then have his own little PG Lang with Baby Keem on it, the sky's the limit for Baby Keem. I think that he's definitely arrived, but he hasn't arrived, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he could ramp up the storytelling. That's going to be key. I want to hear Baby Keem's story more in depth at some point there. I think he's going to have a lot of really easy pop hits with some of the topics he gets into in terms of heartbreak and woman and all those type of things that he dives into, more so than Kendrick. I think there's an urgency and flow that reflects Kendrick and a lot of his idols, people that he looks up to. But to hear him kind of go back and forth with Kendrick on a track, skill-wise on Range Brothers, I mean, the second verse there where he really starts diving in, they're bouncing back and forth, like that's what he needed to do right off top for his career, to just kind of show that he has it. Listen, not many artists can do that ever, never mind right from the beginning. And he's got to be pretty young still, so there's a lot of music to hear from him, and it feels pretty well crafted. Like, I don't think we're gonna hear a ton of Baby Keem music all the time. I think we're gonna hear pretty methodically made albums, singles, things like we saw here that come out sounding pretty polished. I mean, this wasn't a perfect album, but in terms of a debut, this is the high end of what you could expect from a guy, right?
I mean, in terms of a day, I think if we're talking mixtape, then yeah, sure. But if we're talking about a debut album, I expect for it to be more cohesive than this.
All right.
I expect I expect for every I to be dotted and every T to be crossed here, and it wasn't.
It was a bit scrambled. I would definitely say that.
But still really good.
We have Earl Sweatshirt coming next year, which I'm excited about. He's dropped a number of good singles late here, as well as features this year. I want to shout out Pink Seafood too with Gumbo. I didn't get Nate onto it yet. Obas loved it.
I'm on
I
break.
put you on the Pink Seafood. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm on break. I'm on break till next year.
I love what he did just with the array of Southern sounds here. Southern hip hop still dominating, and he went back to the roots and just experimented with a lot of the original sounds there. Shout out to him.
Of Southern hip hop, the Young Boy and Birdman collab album from the Bayou is heat. It's crazy.
I love whether it's Memphis, whether it's Atlanta, whether it is I believe Pink Seafood is from Mississippi.
Moneybagg Yo had a good year too.
Yeah.
The South still rules. And we talked about Houston as well with Maxo.
Yeah.
What else do I want to sprinkle in here before we get out of here? Mac Homie is, if we're still talking kind of the Griselda lane there. And listen, he's kind of doing his own thing. I think he released 3 albums this year, which is definitely of Griselda ilk, just the volume of work, which I like. Nate doesn't love as much oversaturation, but if it's good, it's good.
It's a balance thing.
And I'll take a lot of music from people if they're willing to give it. Mac Homie of Haitian descent, who wears it on his sleeve, who raps in Creole, who just has a excellent storytelling base, flow.
Sounds like old Bizzle has to bite his flow.
And a good voice.
Nah, that's my guy. That's my guy.
Are we gonna hear?
You gotta bite his flow.
Obas,
you gotta be on a verse. You gotta be on his verse. What's up? Y'all gotta work together.
We fine. I know.
How cool was that, Obas? Like, I haven't even heard you talk about him much. Just hearing like how he wears Haiti on his sleeve. I've never heard anything like that. A guy rapping in Creole.
I mean, have you never heard of that? I mean, that's him, you know. Like, I mean, you see people talk about Haitian culture a lot. I mean, K-Tronada is Haitian, for God's sake. You know what I mean?
Is he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And they teamed up on a song, "Pay for Haiti," where Mac Homie raps the whole song in Haitian Creole.
That shit was hard, though. Moment. That shit was hard, though. I was a hard verse, though. I'm not gonna lie. And it's good to see, like, you know, Mac Homie really like infusing a lot of the things that's happening in Haiti, plus with, you know, with his beats. I mean, like, one of the songs that stuck out was about Criminal. And, you know, he mentioned a lot of, like, Haitian names, like, you know, Pouped or Jean Claire. And you start to understand, like, the significance of, like, if you're really, truly Haitian. So, I mean, that's a project I think that was solid and it was right up the Griselda area. Shout outs to Westside Gunn as well, too, for perpetuating good beat selections as well. On that project as well too. So give props to that. Before we even get, there's one more project I meant to mention. We talked about Baby Keem, IDK. You know, shout outs to the DMV. But if we talking about Baby Keem, I think IDK is right up that alley with his project that came out this year. Forgot his name. But he has one.
I think it's called You See For Yourself. I think that's the name.
You See For Yourself. Yeah, You See For Yourself. And again, like, he's right up the Baby Keem alley. It's just, you know, Baby Keem is just doing it at a faster rate. But IDK as well too.
The thing with IDK, I like his last project. I like this last project. I forgot the name of it. Let me find it here. But the thing with the new one, You See For Yourself, it kind of, I can see what you mean because it is kind of versatile. But the only thing is, like, it's still, that one more so suffers from what is IDK sound. Then, like the example you were using about Baby Keem, I think that it's more applicable to IDK than it is to Baby Keem, because Baby Keem, I have no doubt that he's gonna figure it out because of the fact that he's able to produce and make these different types of beats and execute them well. Some of the things that IDK had on You See For Yourself, at least minus the deluxe version, was kind of like it didn't seem. It seemed like he was doing stuff because it was popular, not because he wanted to do them. If that makes sense. Like, if you take that and you compare it to his last project, is he like, if you compare it to the 2019 project, Is He Real? That's a good project because it tells a story throughout the whole thing.
Yes.
But You See For Yourself was just kind of watered down, and I didn't really appreciate that. I know that 500K, shout out 500K, was trying to get me to listen to the deluxe, and I still haven't gotten to it because I haven't gotten over the original project yet.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'll be honest with you. If you're 3 albums in, like, and like, again, he's more of a lyrical kind. He's like that Baby Keem. I don't expect a track like with Offset. You know what I mean? And you got a bunch shaking it in a music video. I mean, it's dope, but like, come on now, like, you know, go back. You know, stay in your lane. Like, stay in your fucking lane. Like, but yeah, man, good projects, good 2021 years. You know,
best year since 2016.
Did anything off Drake's album have any staying power for either of you?
Knife Talk by Drake featuring 21 Savage and Project Pat, because it's produced by Metro Boomin and it's basically a 21 Savage song that 21 Savage gave to Drake. That's the only track worth listening to. Anything else is trash.
I'm not gonna make the case for Way Too Sexy anymore. In the end, it disappointed. It did. We were trying to
tell you for months, Bobby.
It did not have.
That song was trash.
It did not have the superpower hit ability that I thought it did. I thought it was going to be the Hot Girl Summer for Drake, but
last thing off that is that I was talking to 500K about it, and he plays that song. He played that song at the event. That,
Way Too Sexy?
Yeah, he played it, and he said there has never been a song that he's played and it's gotten more of a split reaction in terms of you don't know how the crowd is going to react to it. He'll play it and crowds will either be like, yeah, I love this song, or crowds will look at him and be like, yo, turn this off. Like,
it's got a big hook and awful verses. So like, you just
the hook is terrible too.
You didn't like what Future did there?
No,
That's
there's a reason why Future gave that song to Drake, because I cannot picture that being on a Future album at all. Because Future knows what quality is, and Future was like, "Nah, this song would not be it." It honestly proves like the point of when you go back and look at 2015, how Drake might have needed Future more than Future needed Drake. When you talk about What a Time to Be Alive and where they were both at in their careers.
Let me go down the R&B lane with Obas for a second here. Anderson Paak, Bruno Mars, two biggest stars coming together that we saw work together this year for a pretty short album, 30 minutes. Three big singles that we heard pretty extensively coming into it. Leave the Door Open was a top 3 song for me this year. And Put On a Smile was just a quintessential Bruno track. 777 really caught on. It's got a great commercial, big hook, just embodies Vegas pretty well. Smoking Out the Window, I think for most people coming out of this one, the best track for both those guys. This one came together well. Listen, it was what it was, and it did what it needed to do. The instrumentation was excellent. The singing was awesome. And Bruno Mars kind of took it over, but I'm not mad about that. I'm happy with Paak being kind of like a supporting cast and a great drummer on this album as well.
I mean, it's Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars is a top 5 global superstar. Anderson Paak isn't. Like Anderson Paak is great in his own right, but in terms of fandom, it's nowhere close.
I think when we think about this project, I think Pac really brought the production that Bruno Mars needed, if that makes sense, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think this, like, it was blended on, like, this, honestly, I kid you not, like, when I listen to Supersonic, I'm like, yo, this is such a Pac, like, type of sound. But Bruno Mars singing really just elevated to the next level where I haven't, like, I mean, it brought, like, the 10 karat gold type of vibe, the Uptown Funk, right, into a whole grooviness. That project, and you had Thundercat even make an appearance on that project, right? In terms of R&B, like that I mean, that project was cool. I think the rollout was a little bit all fucked up a little bit.
It was a terrible rollout.
It was a terrible
I
rollout.
disagree. Those music videos were excellent.
But there's a thing with rollout about timing, and for you to drop,
they didn't time it. Thank you.
They didn't time it well at all. They dropped what was the first one? The hit that everyone likes?
Leave the Door Open.
Leave the Door Open dropped like months before Smoking Out the Window, and then like Smoking Out the Window was the one that kind of started the rollout for real. And I guess they didn't take it serious until Smoking Out the Window, but the rollout for it was terrible. And I think that if the rollout was better, I think if you drop Leave the Door Open and then Smoking Out the Window on consecutive weeks, and then the next week you come through and actually drop the album, it's a far different impact.
It's a far different impact. Skate should not have been the second release that they dropped. They should have came out with Smoking Out the Window. That started the conversation. Like, you had SNL really coming out with these funny ass skits. Like, Smoking Out the Window should have been the second release. Then I would have had the conversation.
Skate kind of came and went.
Skate was not. It was not the track, and whoever was the person saying that should have been it, go fuck yourself. That was so fucking terrible.
That was a bad.
Neither of those guys. There's a skating culture that like neither of them really embodies. Like, they were just like, let's just dip our toes in it. Do either of them know how to skate? I don't even know.
I don't expect it from either of them. Skating is more Skating is more for like Tyler the Creator fans and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like that. Those are the people that skate and get gnarly cuts and stuff like that. Like, those are the people that speak that language. Like, Anderson Paak fans and Bruno Mars fans.
It's like an LA vibe that they want.
They only speak cocaine. They only speak cocaine.
Wow, though, Leave the Door Open. When I first saw that like glossy gold video, Paak on the drums, the whole band in like the old school studio, that was my favorite music video of the year. And that's the kind of song you remember the first time you hear it, because there was no warning that was going to drop.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that was all we were going to hear from them this year. I didn't think they had an album, and I'm still skeptical that they did. I think they kind of scrambled things together once that single hit.
I mean, even if they could have just dropped Leave the Door Open and then dropped the album, and then it still would have been the same impact. That it was just a horrible rollout, just terrible. It took a long time. They dropped the ball. It's like, I don't know, like Ben Simmons not taking that layup in Game 6. That's what it equates to.
No.
Like, it was terrible.
Listen, if the album's still good at the end of the day, people are gonna find it, and I think this one's gonna be listened to for a long time. And they're gonna have a tour next summer that I think is gonna hit pretty hard, and that I will be at. Singles this year, I'll just drop a few that I enjoyed. Jid with a great run, one of the best rappers out there right now. Saba, I'm excited about. I hope Nate is too, off the Fearmonger track. One of his best and funkiest tracks we've heard from him so far. Normally he's kind of going that soulful Chicago route. It feels like he's going to try to go and venture into some new sounds at this point. Fire in the Sky, the movie there. Anderson Paak was a good one I enjoyed, out of Shang-Chi, which good movie in its own right.
Track.
I think Obas talked briefly about Vince. I don't think we have to go deep down the Vince staples.
Vince is a great listen if you have 25 minutes and you want to listen to a full album.
Yeah, and a couple of the songs are really good. Take Me Home, I think, has like a good feel, almost like some of his past albums have, in Painting a Picture, Where He's From. Are You With That?
Are You With That is a good track.
Yeah, nice intro, real hazy flow and beat to it as well. Good production there from who produced that album? It was Kenny Beats.
Was it
right?
Kenny Beats? Yeah.
Kenny Beats, yeah.
That one grew on me a lot. I didn't like it at first. It wasn't as adventurous and wide-ranging as past Vince projects, but I always appreciate a guy boiling it down to the basics.
I needed that Vince. I couldn't do another Big Fish Theory.
No, that was way more adventurous and experimental, and I appreciate that one too. I think Vince is 3 for 3 now at this point. Now, Ari Lennox, Pressure, one of the best pop hits this year. That's all I got, I think. Yeah, I'm not going to tout Bia. Nate probably expected me to.
I didn't. I honestly forgot about her until you mentioned her just now.
So there we have it. You said best year since 2016. I don't usually go comparing them, but it was better than last year.
You have to, because the last 2 years were trash.
Last year we needed this. Last year ended up being pretty slow with the pandemic. 19 was weak. 18 was good, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was good. 18 was good.
Yeah, so we have a good year, and already projects lined up. Saba in February. Earl Sweatshirt coming.
Earth Gang drops in January. Corday drops in January. There's a rumor that has been confirmed by Earth Gang that their next project will drop the same day that J. Cole's next project is. So don't be surprised if J. Cole drops in January as well.
Wow.
And it won't be the fall off. It'll be a project called It's a Boy.
I'd be surprised if they do that.
They've been mentioning it. They've been mentioning it for a while, because when J. Cole dropped the off season, people were expecting Earth Gang to drop and they didn't. And they readdressed it again.
Earth Gang, they have a history and a million EPs, and they've been around for a while. In terms of their first major release, though, Mirrorland a couple of years ago, I wasn't blown away by that, and I'm big fans of them.
It was nice.
They did a nice experimental, kind of like Southern fusion type album of R&B and a lot of different other styles there with Jid, and I think Black or Six Lack or whatever you want to call him was involved in that too. That was good from last year.
Spillage Village, you mean?
Spillage, yeah. Spillage
Village. Spillage Village is fire.
That was a good album. That was a really good album. But yeah.
So that was good. Wasn't really their album, but it embodied them most of all the artists involved. So that was their big, I think for me, critical breakout that they needed. And now for them to just kind of do it on their own, I think they're going to have to hit this time.
Yeah, I think so too.
Are you
I think they will.
Too?
I think they will.
All right, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for Saba. I love Saba. He's got 2 singles out now as well. And listen, will we get an Anderson .Paak album this year? Will we get a Kendrick album
We're getting
this
a Kendrick album this year. You could write that in stone. You could carve that in stone. We're getting a Kendrick album this year.
Who else you looking forward to, Obas?
Let me see who else I'm looking for. Oh shit! I mean, honestly, these days I don't expect anything. Maybe we'll get a Nicki Minaj album.
No, I'm cool.
Obas takes whatever comes. All right, Nate,
I take whatever comes.
His podcast is excellent, breaking down the music each week on the Cap.
Appreciate
Obas, stay tuned. He's always podcasting. He's always blogging. He's always putting something out there creative, and has a couple artists of his own.
And he's about to get 50 dropped on him later today by me.
Does Obas still have Draymond in him?
Oh, I think so.
We'll see.
If he doesn't, then it's going to be a boring 50. It's going to be a boring 50 if you ain't got no Draymond in you.
I haven't seen Nate play in a while. I'm coming to New York January 6th, and we'll get out there. I got gonna try to get past the COVID win there and get my conditioning back up over the next couple of days here. And this is it for Dome Theory 2021. I thought we had a bunch of awesome episodes this year, mostly Celtics coverage late in the year. I think we'll get back to some more conceptual stuff with some unique guests into the new year as well, where we have some pockets of time here. So stay tuned with the Celtics coverage on CLNS Media. We'll do music from time to time as stuff is worthy of a deep dive, but stick with Nate for that for the most part. You can find him at
OldMlk Media.
OLDMILK00.
It's also right here if you could see
Twitter.
it. Oh, you can, yeah. Just at right. No, wait, hold on. This is mirrored. No, wait, and that right here, like at OldMlk Media. Right there.
Obas needs glasses.
I left my glasses on the flight, so.
Oh my God! Wait, you wear glasses? I didn't even know that.
I am Bobby Manning. Thanks for sticking with us this year. We had a lot of fun.
Time to get buckets.
Supporting all the coverage into 2022. We will see you then.
Prime James Harden is back.
iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all those places. iHeart, Music, whatever they call it now. And we will see you next week.